What's up, Valyntpreneurs? Welcome back to Valynt Volumes. This is your CEO, Dan Spotsville.
And I'm Michaela Mitchell.
And if you're a first-time listener tuning into Valynt Volumes, here in this podcast, we talk about entrepreneurship, business, but most importantly, how to kick ass in life.
Yeah. And today we have a very special guest.
We do. Very special.
Yes.
Warms my heart.
Oh, how sweet. I love that.
I'm like hot chocolate.
Oh, I'll be the marshmallow, I guess. Anyways, today's guest is a serial entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and a visionary owner behind Woodlands Capital Solutions and Matrix Epoxy. He's a longtime friend of Dan and a true growth catalyst in the entrepreneurial scene. So everyone join us today as we dive into the world of entrepreneurship. We'll touch on the value of mentorship and truly explore the crucial role that growth plays in the journey with our guest, Mike McDaniel.
Right. Welcome to the volume.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Yes,
welcome.
I like that.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining for us. I think it's super important for us to start. How do you guys know each other?
Do you want me to go, Mike?
Go for it.
I think Mike was kind of forced to to get to know me through, Mr. T. I just won't even mention his name. I'll just call him Mr. T. But, when I first started Valynt Digital, there was a company prior to this called Lift Media, which I kind of started on my own. Yeah. But during that process, Mike was working at a company there as one of the executives. And he was just forced to become my partner. So that's kind of like my perspective on how we kind of met. I don't know, Mike, if you have a different, look from your side, but
it's pretty accurate.
Is it? Yeah.
No, it was kind of one of those situations where we decided we were going to be partnering with Dan, but we were going to be partners as partners in the business, which is how Valynt Digital came to be birthed from Lift Media. And for me, it was a huge growth curve because I knew nothing about digital marketing. I'm really was used to the old school way, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and a lot of overtime after that, moving into a world that was more creative and wasn't an 8 to 5 as much as it was deadline driven. So it was a frustrating experience in the beginning, to say the least, because it was such a shift in my paradigm of how business is supposed to be ran, how things are supposed to be going. I'd walk into the offices and I'd be like, where is everybody? And Dan's like, I don't know, they'll get here, whenever. I'm like, what do you mean they're going to get here wherever? We're paying a salary. And he's like, dude, they were up at 2 o'clock in the morning doing their creative, and they were doing this. And it really was a great shift for me to prepare me for how the world was going to change, especially once COVID hit. Once COVID hit, everything changed for everybody. And if I didn't have that exposure early on, it would have been even harder for me to have understood how to navigate those waters of COVID in that time. So it was really an eye-opener. But yeah, we started working together, actually became very close friends. Yeah. And the rest is really kind of history. We're more looking forward to the memories we're going to create as opposed to the ones that we've had at this point.
That's true. We've had some ups and downs, I think, together with, some of our old partners. But yeah, I consider Mike a friend now. So we have lunch once a month, and I bounce ideas off of him. If I'm going through something, I talk to him about it, get his advice. So I mean, look, I know we're going to talk about mentorship, but Mike has truly been a mentor for me too throughout the years. So
yeah, that's super cool, especially when you were forced to be together.
Yeah, great. The best forced marriage ever. So it's been good.
I like that.
Yeah, it's been cool. Yeah.
So before we get into like entrepreneurship and mentorship, you want to give a little background about what you do now?
Yeah, tell us who you are.
So I'm a complex person. I like long walks on the beach. Okay. No, I don't actually. I like a short walk with a big drink on that beach. Right now, I have a couple of small companies that I own. One of them is a company called Matrix Epoxy. We do epoxy coatings for commercial spaces and for residential garages. We've had that for about 5 years, and it's doing really well. And then a few years ago, I left corporate America to 100% work for myself full time. And that's with a company called Woodlands Capital Solutions. So basically, I buy and sell mineral deeds with oil and gas royalties associated with them. And I love it every day. Every day I go into work. I've never had a morning I woke up and said, God, I don't want to go in today. I've had that at too many other places. So I love what I do. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
it feels so cheesy to say that, like, I love what I do, or like, this is always fun. But like, I genuinely heard somebody on our team just a couple days ago share to an outsider, if you will, say, no, every time I come to work, like, this still excites me. And so like, I'm genuinely starting to see that with, like, with our team. So it's a cool, I can relate to what you're saying now. Like, I didn't feel like that was true for me like several years ago, but like, that's awesome. Were you always in oil and gas, or like?
No, I actually got involved as an investor. One of my friends who does this business called and said, hey, bro, send me $100 grand. And I laughed and asked if he was in cahoots with my wife for her to get a shopping spree. And he explained it to me. And so I went ahead, and he's the one that actually encouraged me to leave corporate America. You know, my background in corporate America was going into companies that were either distressed or looking to create a growth pattern for a liquidation event. And I would go in and create new processes and training curriculum, and basically get them to whatever that number was so that they could have a good EBITDA and go ahead and create that liquidation event, or create a growth pattern for them. And it was just time for me to stop making everybody else millions and make my own.
Yeah. Did you always like kind of have that in the back of your mind when you were in corporate? Like, yeah, I always want to just kind of branch off at a certain time in my career, or did it just kind of naturally like progress to that point because of situations that you have encountered or something?
It was always there. So early on, I knew when I was younger, I wanted to own health clubs. I was naive because I hadn't owned a health club yet. I thought that's what I wanted to do. So I actually took jobs within organizations like Verizon doing yellow page sales, because it let me learn how to do demographics. It let me learn how to do marketing and advertising. And I knew that that would be a way to apply that. And so every job that I took, the deal was what part of this job in owning this business would prepare me for it. I came across a Gold's Gym in Denton, Texas, where one of my close friends, Jeff, was failing. And so he was going to buy it. So I partnered with Jeff, and we bought that Gold's Gym and created Elite Fitness. And then after a few years, I opened a second gym in McKinney, Texas. And what I realized after owning a health club is, man, I hate owning health clubs. It's a whip, man. You're open 364 days a year. Everybody's got a complaint. People are stealing from you left and right. It's almost like being in the bar business. Really? It was rough. But then I owned a wedding DJ service for 19 years. I've always had.
That's just so like left field.
Hold on.
It's so different
What's your go-to like wedding song?
I forgot you were a DJ.
After 5,000 weddings, there is no go-to song because you've played them so many times. You're just like, you know what? I'm going to jump off of this window and hope I don't hit the water. I want all concrete.
Cool.
You know, so, you know, there's always been some business that I have tried to venture into, but with things that changed in the economy and the demands, it caused me to have to go into corporate America and utilize my skills there. Luckily, those skills were good enough to get me to the top pretty quickly. But it was after, you know, 15 years in corporate America that I'm like, dude, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm doing this job, and I'm trying to run these other businesses and start them up. And I sold some of them and did really well with them. But at the end of the day, there are some people that are really good at working for people. And then there are some people that they're built to start their own thing and see that vision and carry it through. And I feel like that's where I was. So it's always been to be an entrepreneur, but because of circumstances, economy, and whatever else was going on, I had to think of the security of my family at the time.
That makes sense.
This might sound a little basic, but what is the definition of an entrepreneur? Maybe like literally, but also to you guys. You both have an interesting journey that's, you know, you didn't just start off by having your own business. You started in various places that allowed you to become an entrepreneur and starting your own businesses. So,
well, I like for our guests, I mean, you know, you're our guest, so I'll let you go first.
I'm probably the worst person to ask that because most entrepreneurs have a vision of what they wanted to become an entrepreneur in. I don't. I have done everything from health clubs to DJ businesses to a mortgage company to, you know, minerals with oil and gas royalties. And the consistent thing with me is I like starting up businesses and getting them successful and selling them. I never woke up one day and went, man, I can't wait to sell minerals. Or, you know, I did wake up and go, I want to own a health club for years and years, once again, foolishly until I owned one.
But you never know until you own it.
You don't know. But what I like is the idea of going, man, that's a great concept, and I think I can do it better than them, and putting my own processes in place to do that. You know, and part of, I think, what we're talking about today is mentorship. I've got some fantastic mentors in place, and there are times that I have ideas and my mentor goes, man, you just haven't been paying attention for the last 15 years, have you? Like, that's the dumbest idea you can do. And you know, that's the beauty of a mentor. You give them the freedom to be very direct with you. But you know, there's some hits and there's some misses. I just like the game. I like taking the swings with the things that I think I can do. It's definitely a learning curve. But for me, an entrepreneur, that's a long way to get around an answer to your question.
No, it's good. It's good.
I think that's a response in itself. Like, that's the type of entrepreneur you are.
It is.
You know, there's no wrong or right here. So
is that what you meant by like defining yourself as a growth catalyst? Kind of?
So no. Actually, as a growth catalyst, I think that there's different ways of growth. And if you look at business, especially if you own your business, you're always looking for growth. You're looking for growth of your salespeople. You're looking for growth of the brand of your product. You're looking for growth in revenue. There's always growth. The one thing most entrepreneurs forget about, though, is the growth that has to happen within themselves to continue to move forward. When you stop taking coaching, you've really kind of hit the pinnacle of where you're going to be. And there's a lot of times, and I use this scenario often, when you're in the middle of a tornado, you can't see where the tornado's going. You're just trying to grab onto anything and everything that's swirling around you. Whereas when someone's standing on the side of the cliff, they can go, man, tornado's about to hit the barn. Somebody probably needs to go empty it. There's a different perspective. And when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of times you're in the middle of that tornado, but you don't want to hear what other people say. And having a coach and having a mentor and someone standing from a different perspective to go, hey, you're heading towards a disaster, and be able to hear that and react appropriately is really where I think the growth catalyst comes in. It's about growth in all areas of my life, not just in business, but even as being a husband and a father. I'm intentional about how do I become a better husband today than I was yesterday? How am I a better father today than I was yesterday? So when I say a growth catalyst, it's because really a lot of when I do keynote speaking is challenging people to not lie on the successes they had yesterday. It's really to say, where do we go from here? What is the next step? And it doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be from an accolade position. It could be just from a personal growth standpoint.
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot because I share the same way of thinking that you do. I've said often, you know, to different people, like, it's very seldom, and I hardly see it, like in your career or in your business, unless you grow personally, you'll never grow in your career or your business, right? So I understand that. And to the point that you're making, like, I'm always looking for things like, man, how can I grow this part? Like video production, we changed that this year. We increased our prices. We're launching a new software, you know. We got new team members. How am I like making their life better? I mean, everything is tied to growth. But I realize even more this year though, in the last 6 weeks, like, cause you know, I stopped drinking and I kind of bring that up quite a bit now. Like I'm on day like 69 today. Yeah, I know. Job. I know. But because of that though, like my trajectory for real has changed and my mind's more clear, which means like I've grown in that situation in that sense. And it's very apparent in my business that in the last like 6 weeks, I mean, we're just shooting up, you know, and it has to do with me just stopped drinking. As simple as that sometimes, which is a hard thing to do for a lot of people. And it's been very hard for me. Like it hasn't been easy, but that's very true though.
There's a lot of momentum that's been gained rather than having to like start and stop and like start over and like get back to that place of like moving forward. So
yeah, the growth part is absolutely like a necessity, you know?
Well, before we dive into more of the mentorship and the growth, is there anything that you wanted to add to defining like entrepreneurship in your eyes or?
Yeah, like I think I have a different outlook than Mike does. I think for me, like I've always wanted to, I think I've said this from like years ago, but like as an entrepreneur like myself, I've always wanted to, and you already do have this, I think you just didn't mention it, but I always wanted to have an impact on people. And I wanted to build this like playground. But I also like just building shit. So like even in my 20s, I've had so many failed businesses that just never really went anywhere. But I learned from it, and then I went back into corporate. But during corporate, I did strategically take certain jobs like you did. I learned a lot from it. So like I went into kind of like a startup that had like 20 plus employees in the Virgin Islands, and he put me in every position, right? Inventory, regional sales, retail sales. And then once he put me in all positions within 12 months, he put me as the head of everything. So like I've learned that, and that stuck with me, that learning of how Tony, shout out to Tony, he's a He's a 1-star general out in like Arkansas, something like that now. But he took me under his wings and he taught me a lot. And I took that and I bring it here to Valynt Digital. So for me, it's like having an impact, making a shit ton of money. Who doesn't like to make money? I mean, you're in business to make money, right? So that and having a good time. Like I never saw myself like working for somebody else long term, you know, and I've always been a builder. So I just wanted to do my own thing. Yeah. Like that's what it comes down to for me.
So how did you both like find mentors? Did you look for them? Did they happen organically? Like what was that journey for you, Mike?
So for me, I have 2 mentors. One of them was when I owned my health club, I had a friend that was an attorney that I trained, and he had a coach named Tony Jerry. And Tony was looking to change the direction of his health physically, and I was looking for someone to help me grow as a professional. So Rocky connected the 2 of us, and for 14 years, I got up 3 days a week at 4:30 in the morning and drove out to Tony's place and trained him, and he coached me. And now we've become fantastic friends. And he's been a fantastic blessing because he coaches some of the top CEOs around the world. And the fact that he values our friendship enough to coach and mentor me is fantastic. But I don't take that for granted. I've got another coach. His name is Joe Kesterson. And Joe, I approached and asked him because I didn't want to monopolize so much of Tony's time. And I also wanted to have more than one perspective on circumstances and situations that I was going through. So one of them happened organically. One of them happened by me walking up and saying, Joe, I would like to ask you to be a mentor. And, you know, luckily Joe is that guy that loves to pour into people as well. And he and I actually just had a mentor session Saturday morning. Nice. And, you know, it's very regimented. It's very, let's small talk can happen on someone else's time right now. Yeah. You're here to get coached, and he's really good. Some of the fundamental things that you take for granted, you recognize you're not using, that's where they're in place to be able to make sure that you're doing it. So that's how I got my 2 mentors.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go to who your mentors are mentors also your friends, or are they different?
I believe your mentor needs to be your friend because you're putting a level of trust and faith in them, and they're looking out for your well-being. And sometimes my buddy John used to say, there's never an easy time to have a hard conversation. Ooh. You just have to have it, right? So with Tony and Jerry, Tony Jerry and Joe Kesterson, I have to allow that we have to be friends too, because I have to know they care about me. And if I'm going to take that type of criticism from someone, I need to know that they're looking out for my best interest, and that makes it easier for me to not get offended and just go, okay, I missed the boat on this one. And both of those guys are wildly successful. They are really the bar of who I really strive to be like in business. So, you know, I kind of look at it like they've already learned how to assemble the clock. There's no reason for me to tear it apart.
I like
there
that.
you go.
Okay, Dan, you're on the spot now. Talk to me about your mentors.
Yeah, I think early on, like, just because like I was in the Virgin Islands and stuff, there wasn't really somebody that I could really connect with there. So like my mentors were like audiobooks and like YouTube videos and stuff. So I've told this to like some other people too. Like if you don't have like in person, look, some of these people leave, you know, books or videos, and their intent is to help other people out. So I kind of started there, like videos and audiobooks. But I think from there, like, you know, I've had just like seasonal mentors like throughout my career and what it is that I do today. Again, like I consider like Mike a mentor still, because I still bounce off things for him, and we still have things that we do kind of together on the side. But outside of that, you know, I think I've been a person that I've had like seasonal mentors that I needed like during that time frame, that helped me out. But I was also simultaneously like I was able to give them something that they needed, whether it was like through my digital marketing knowledge or helping them out, or you know, surprisingly, like I know how to connect people nowadays too, just because like I've grown as a business owner, so I'm able to make connections too. So yeah, a little different from Mike's, but yeah, that's kind of my thing. Yeah.
Is there anything that stuck with you that Mike taught you as a mentor?
Yeah, there.
Wait, okay. Are we allowed to discuss this? Are we off of the gag order from the judge?
So choose what you want to say wisely.
Yeah, no, I think I've said this like multiple times, but like there's a lot of things that Mike has told me, but there's this one thing called inspect what you expect. And that came through, I can't remember exactly what situation, but it's one of those things, like when you give directive to people, right? And you need them to do something, sure, you trust them, but you got to inspect what you expect. So that way there's some sort of accountability there. So that's always stuck with me for many, many years for me. So yeah.
Do you have a best piece of advice that a mentor has offered you, Mike?
Actually, I just got a great one. 2 pieces of advice this past Saturday. If we're talking to entrepreneurs, number one, with anything that you're trying to accomplish, anything that you're trying to do, reduce it to writing. Put it in writing. And that way you have clearly defined what the vision is. I believe a lot of times companies fail because they don't communicate the vision to their people very well. People want to do a good job. They never come and interview going, man, I can't wait to suck for you. They all come in wanting to either be the best or become the best. The problem is you didn't communicate clearly the vision for the company and for them and how they're going to support that vision. And importantly enough, how the company is going to support their personal vision as well. So reducing it to writing is huge. And the second thing that he gave me this weekend was, especially as an entrepreneur, the best gift that you can give yourself is the ability to tell people no. When you're running and you're successful and you're doing a lot of things, you know what you're capable of doing to help people, and you want to help people, and you want to believe in people. And sometimes you'll overextend yourself. And now you're playing catch up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not a digital guy. I don't need to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I need all the beauty sleep I can get. Okay. But you put yourself in a behind the 8-ball situation because you couldn't say no to so many people, and you find yourself at the end of the day, you were busy, but you didn't get anything accomplished. So having the ability to tell people no is the best gift that you can give yourself. Those are my 2 pieces I got this past Saturday.
I do want to touch on the first thing that you said. So I think part of our growth, right? Like we have 10 team members now. Like I started this maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, but I gave them like the yearly planner, Clever Fox yearly planner. So what I do now is I tell them, hey, write your goals down. You know, they write their goals down, like personal, finance, health, career, all of that. And then we had our one-on-one, and through that one-on-one, to the point that you made, I say, okay, tell me your goals. Here's Valynt's goals. This is how, if you do here, this is what you do here at Valynt, and this is how you can realize some of your goals that you have written, right? So like I tie their goals into what the goals that Valynt have and marry the two. And I think that has played a very intricate part in how we're moving faster, all in the same direction. Like it's been a game changer. And then sharing that vision. So like every Tuesday and Thursday now, we do have a set time to come in the office.
He's not kidding. I've been there for all of it.
I'm not believing this podcast is legit anymore. You're going to throw out lies.
No, we have a set time. So like every Tuesday and Thursday, we have our team meeting. We talk about where everybody is in, like, you know, the digital build side, the account management, onboarding side, the sales side. So like we have these conversations and everybody's just kind of moving in sync now. It's interesting to see. You know, but the communication of the vision and what we're looking to accomplish that month is very important. There's this one thing that I talked about in this previous podcast before he came in here today, the top 5. So now our team is required to have a top 5. So I can go to them anytime and say, hey, tell me what your top 5 is. So I know it makes them think about their week and what they're doing every single day. 2, you know, when they have their top 5 and they don't get something done, as long as they get that done, they don't have to feel stressed going into the weekend, right? So it alleviates that. And 3, selfishly, if I know everybody's top 5, I can understand what tasks they're working on and align that with the top 5 that I have and make sure those things are happening. So like we're moving all in the same direction. But that's one thing we've implemented just recently. So
I mean, that also kind of plays into the inspect what you expect.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, like instead of saying like, what do you have going on today? I mean, I know when you ask me that, it's like, oh, wait, I have to like refocus. Like,
no, I just say, what's your top 5?
Yeah, into what's going on, like what's important enough to share in this moment for the team, or it's almost like, what is the boss looking for in this moment for me to say that's going to be like, and good enough, right? So I think the top 5 is like a perfect way to explain that. So it tells you literally what I'm doing, but it's also like, what's the priority, what's high level, and it allows you to like observe, okay, is there room for them to have additional like things on their plate? So if you expect them to be doing stuff that's moving Valynt forward, that's a perfect way to inspect it.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So that's good.
It's good stuff, man.
I think it's genius to talk to your people about what they want, right? It's very common for people to come in and interview at a job and the job say, this is what we expect out of you. I told people when I was in corporate America, when they came to interview, this is a two-sided interview, right? I'm going to let you know what I'm looking for, my expectations of whatever person joins this team, but you need to have a communication about what you expect this company to provide for you, because nobody goes to work going, man, all I want out of this life is to pay my rent and buy my groceries and pay my gas bill. They have goals and they have aspirations, and without understanding what those are, you really can't properly motivate them. And when you sit down to do a review, if they're falling behind, it doesn't have to be about you're not meeting the criteria of the company alone. It's you're not meeting the criteria for what you wanted. And how do I help you get what you want? It's not just always about the company getting what it wants, right? And one of the best things about being a servant leader is you are sensitive to what those things are to your people, and those become the motivators. And I got to be honest, if the goal is for Bob to have a new boat, every time he's on that boat, he's going to remember how you motivated, encouraged, and pushed, and how Valynt Digital was the one that facilitated the ability to get this boat and get out on the water, and it builds loyalty. And once you have a room full of people that want to run through walls for you, man, it's hard to stop a company like that.
That's where we are, I hope. That's where we're getting to.
It's kind of like, ooh, I'm working this one out loud, but like, it's like instead of having a job where it's like, I have to go to my job so that I can afford to do XYZ. It's like you're creating this environment where the job isn't just a place for the money to be made. It's a place for you to also like achieve your goals and like
it's a hard thing.
Like I'm just trying to like make it. I have it in my head, but it's like, it's a place where instead of just like, it has to happen, it's like cohesively working like alongside of like your actual like life. Like it's a part of your life instead of a thing that like has to be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like
it's not like you're clocking in and clocking out. Like it's a place where you go to make your goals happen and
like,
make
cool,
that
like,
a reality.
This is also getting me,
pushing
me forward to like my personal goals. My personal goals are like entwined with like this. And so.
I mean, that's the whole purpose of us doing the yearly, you know, goal setting and the books and stuff, so like that. But I do want to switch gears a little bit. I tend to ask, you know, our guest person on the Valynt Volume, what is the top 3 thing you think a Valyntpreneur should focus on? You know, if they're maybe in the middle of their journey, that may be applicable to maybe all entrepreneurs. Are there like maybe 3 things you can share with us? Be like, hey man, this is what you need to focus on, get right to have a successful business. I know there's more than that, but
there is, you know, and to pick just 3 things, I think it's circumstantial. Where are you at in your phase of this company or this job, and what's going on in your personal life? If we're going to be more 10,000 foot view general, the first thing I'd say is, first of all, have a mentor, have a coach. Have someone that is pulling for you, that you trust, can be very direct and straight with you, and you'll listen. You know, there was a big campaign a long time ago that knowledge is power, right? I don't agree with that. Knowledge is not power. It's the application of that knowledge where there's power. If you're choking, and I go, dude, I know the Heimlich, I can say it, but I just smile and look at him, he's going to die, right? It's not until I apply that knowledge that there's power. So I think that giving people the opportunity to coach you and mentor you, and you react accordingly to that, is the first thing. The second thing I'm going to suggest is, if you're an entrepreneur that's on the upcome and you're doing well, stay humble. Right? A lot of times, a lot of entrepreneurs start believing their own hype, and it's all about me. And dude, you got a team behind you that crushed it for you. And to not show that love back and give that appreciation, a lot of times people will pass over other high paying jobs for a job that they know they're appreciated and valued in. I'm not saying don't take care of your people. What I am saying is, the people that are doing the job shouldn't have to wonder if you know that they're doing the job. And when there's a success, man, share it. You don't have anything to prove. You're the entrepreneur. You're the owner, right? You don't got anything else to prove. But those people want to know that you recognize that they stayed up late, that they put in the extra time, they did the extra research, whatever it is. Show enough humility to give kudos where they're due. And the third thing that I would recommend as an entrepreneur, because you can get so wrapped up in trying to find success, I gave up because I was listening to a podcast the other day. I say the other day, it's been a while now. And they said, don't look for work-life balance. Look for work-life harmony. There's a difference, right? If I got a work-life balance, that means I'm at work from this time to this time, and when I'm done, I check out mentally from there and I'm back at home. But if you have a work-life harmony, they can support one another, right? And now I'm not stressed about, well, when I get back to my work time, I got to handle all of this. If you have harmony, one will support the other enough where it can flow. It's no different than employer-employee harmony. That is back to their goals versus your goals, and how do they work together for everybody to win. Tony Jerry talks about an elegant solution, right? An elegant solution is when it's not just me getting what I want. It's not just you getting what you want. It's we both found success together and we're both high-fiving each other when we walk out the door. Work-life harmony is the third thing that I would suggest.
That's exactly what I was trying to like describe, but I didn't know the right words to explain what I was thinking, and you just nailed it. There we go. So thank you for that. Yeah, that was exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Interesting fact. You know, like I talked about going to Japan. Like I had lunch with Mike last year. It was like right around this time. The conversation with Mike, and you gave me a book on lunch during lunchtime that you told me I should read. So I read that book.
What was it?
I can't remember the title of it, but what I got out of it is that I need to make time for myself and do some of the things that I want to do. And that's what made me buy the tickets to Japan last year. And now I'm going every year.
So the book was Eugene O'Kelly's Chasing Daylight.
Oh, okay.
And it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. Maybe if you ask for a fourth thing, that would be the fourth thing, is don't stop trying to learn as an entrepreneur. I read 1 to 2 books at any given time. Dan, you're constantly reading, you're constantly researching. You have to be able to grow. You know, I kind of talked about it earlier in the podcast. It was a hard shift for me when I got involved with Dan and the way that world works, but it opened up my eyes that this is not the only way to do it. And it may not even be the most effective or efficient way to do it. You've got to be able to be open-minded to say, man, I got to look at this perspective, and that perspective, and then weigh out, you know, and you got to take your ego out of it. So constantly read, constantly try to develop as a leader.
It's interesting that you talk about the perspective piece of things, because like I find that we can be, like me and Dan can be so similar in certain things, but we could also sit here with you and have the same experience or have the same things happen around us and then walk away having a completely different interpretation. And so like, it's just so interesting how two people who can think so similarly can have the same thing happen around them, but then like take away something so different or like interpret what's happening around us so differently. So.
I do want to say this before we wrap up, to the point that you're making there. I do find that, you know, as you build your business, you got to have people around you that do share like the same core values. I found that to be very like important. Like you got to have because like for me, like when things don't work out with team members, sometimes it stems from like you can have a different point of view, but like the core values of like who this individual is and how they operate, because I operate on certain values, right? And having that aligned with your team members has helped us, you know, get to where we are now. So I think that's important for people to kind of see. It took me a long time to understand that, like, why didn't this team member work out, or why didn't this business partnership work out with like Mr. T? Well, just different values, you know.
It's hard too, right? You again, nobody interviews with the idea of I can't wait to get fired. Nobody gets married with the idea of I wonder how long we're going to stay married before we divorce. Everybody gets into it with the idea that this is long term. I think again it goes back to transparent communication. You've been there before, right, Dan, where you've got a fantastic person and they're very talented, but we got them on the wrong seat in the bus. And that's a lot of times they fail because we're expecting something out of them that they're not built to do. It's rare. And all the people that I've employed and all the companies that I've ran, it's rare to come across someone where I go, man, you were just a crap person, you got to go. You know, I mean, it doesn't happen by nature. Typically people are good, but I agree. If their values or their vision doesn't align, that's part of being able to say, no, this is not the place for you.
I've had to do that recently. So.
It's hard, right? Because you understand that's people's livelihood and you want to make sure that you're not taking away their livelihood. But if you got the wrong person on the wrong seat of the bus, they're never going to feel fulfilled in what they're doing either. They're only going to feel frustration. And then that frustration festers and then they're gone and you're like, why did we lose them? Well, this is why.
There's a lot of friction there. And And that's what I've learned too. I think that's a great way to kind of wrap things up.
Yeah, there's a lot to pull out of that. So for another Valynt Volumes.
Yeah, there's more I want to talk about, but you know, for the sake of time.
This is a good.
You guys are gonna bring me back?
Surprise! Well, as we close out, I'm not sure if for the Valyntpreneurs out there, if there's anything you want to plug your socials with, or if there's people who might be interested in minerals that they can connect with you.
You know what? Right now, I want to plug you guys. This is your breakout year. You're you guys are trying to go. You guys have been doing this on the DL for a while, and this is the year that you're really trying to push your brand. So what I want to do is I want to support that vision right now in this podcast. If people want to find you, they know how to find you. Social media is easy, right? But in this case, man, I want y'all to plug your stuff, and I want to do whatever I can do to support the growth of that, and see where we are this time next year. When we have lunch again this time next year,
for sure.
We always sit down and talk about how did our goals go? What did we not see coming? What did we do well? Man, I want this to be one of those things that, man, we crushed it based on this. So
I appreciate that, Mike. I really do. Yep, super grateful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to those Valyntpreneurs listening, if you have any questions for Mike himself, hello@valyntdigital.com. And if you want us to invite other guests on here, talk about different topics, answer questions, let us know at hello@valyntdigital.com.
Until next time.
Thanks, guys.
Until next time. Yeah.
Peace.